Hello everybody. In this tutorial we will be doing some diagrams and frequency diagrams on Excel. So here on the right part of the sheet we have just random data, x and y values, and we want to put them in a diagram like a scatter diagram to see, for example, if there is a correlation between the two variables. And if there is it the positive correlation, is it the negative correlation, is it a strong one, is it a weak one? So we can see that together. We can also make a line plot out of it, and we will see how to do that in a bit. And here on the left part of the sheet, we have a column of numbers. All these numbers are all under 10, below 10, and each digit is repeated at least twice. And here we have the frequency distribution table for these numbers. So how many times were the numbers repeated in each class? We did the frequency distribution table in a previous video, and we learned together how to create a frequency distribution table out of a column of numbers like this one, and we came up with this distribution table, and in this tutorial we will be using it to see how to make frequency diagrams out of it. So let's first start with the x and y values and see what we can do with them. So, for example, we want to start with a scatter plot. So to do that, we select the values, and very simple. We go and insert. It's already clicked, and we choose scatter, and we choose the first one. And here we go. We have our scatter plot, and we see from the diagram that there is a positive correlation between the two variables. And it's not even a weak correlation, it's more closer to a strong correlation. Maybe not the strongest ever, but it is closer to a strong correlation than a weak correlation. What we can do also here to make our diagram more clear, we can label our axis titles. So for example, here we click on our diagram, we go to layout, we go to axis titles, and here we have, for example, the horizontal axis, and then we choose maybe title below axis. Here we go, we have axis title here. We can go ahead, and in our case, it's we just call it X. We didn't choose a specific type of data, so we can just call this X, and maybe we can move it right here, or yeah, you can choose where to put it. We're just used to put the if it is x and y, to put it near the end of the axis. And we can do the same for the vertical axis. Here you can also choose how to put it. So for example, I will choose that. That doesn't look great. We can choose, yeah, that might looks better. We go ahead and type y, and we can also move it here up here. So here we go. We have our scatter plot. We have our axes labeled x and y, and we have a positive and a strong correlation. So that is one thing, the scatter plot. Now we know how to do that. We can also create a line plot out of the data. So we can select them again, click on insert line, and like we see, the red one is our line plot, and here we don't need this line plot, so we can go ahead and delete it. And here we have our line plot. We can also label the axes as we did, and if we don't need this, we can also delete it because it doesn't mean anything for us in this case to have a series 1 or series 2. So here is our line plot. Here we have our x axis, the horizontal axis, and here we have our y-axis. And we saw in the last example how to label our axis. You can also give it a title, chart title, like here above chart, and you can, if there is a title, you can go ahead and type your title. All right, so now we know that how to do the line plot. We can also, there is another type of line plot which I will show you in a second. Like here, it just shows you the points. So those are the same points that we saw in our correlation in our scatter plot. But all what happened is that those points are just joined together now with lines. So line dot plot or dot line plot, whatever you like. It's just points and joined with lines like shown here. And again, you can also go ahead and label your axes and type your title. Okay, so now it is a very good transition point to go from those useful diagrams, which we used the data on the right side, to go to the frequency diagrams on the left part. And why we I mentioned that this is a good transition point. It's because if this type of plot, like the same type of plot, dots joined with lines, if it is done, if the data or the numbers on the graph is a frequency is coming from a frequency distribution table, then this type of plot is called frequency polygon. So if the y-axis values is our frequency and the x-axis is our limits or classes, then and it's the same type of plot or chart that is shown here, then it's called frequency polygon. So let's go ahead and try it using our um, frequency distribution table. So let's delete those figures. And okay, so now we select our frequency distribution table. We go here and we choose this. So now we see here it's the same type of data, or sorry, same type of chart that we saw in the previous example, but the data used here on the y-axis is frequencies, and on the x-axis is limits or classes. Then this type of diagram now is called frequency polygon. Okay, very important. This is a frequency polygon. In the previous example, it was just a line dot plot, but in this example, because the data is coming from frequency distribution table, then now this is called frequency polygon. Okay, so that's the first frequency diagram that I wanted to show you. There is also, like, we can do a bar a frequency bar diagram. So we select again our frequency distribution table. We go to insert, column, and we choose the first one. And here we go. We have a frequency bar chart. Here we have the classes, and each class and the bar reaches to the frequency of the class that is here on the x-axis. Also, in this case, this serious thing on the side doesn't mean anything for us, so we can delete it. And we can also go ahead, as I showed you before, and label our x's. And if there is a title, we can also type our title. All right, I hope this tutorial was useful for you, and I wish you good luck with your practice.